Qu'est-ce que j'aime pas à Paris?
Yes, the people can be.
It's not just dog poo, it's also people poo.
Get this on a shovel first, but what do I dislike about living in Paris? Okay, it's I guess it's a culture thing. It's the way Parisians seem to do things.
One thing that I dislike is that there's a lot of homeless people. I wish that the government would do something about that and take care of the people, because it's always sad to see.
They have a lot of trash here. And also, you can say what I said before.
There's this thing, whenever I see Paris in Google, it's always very beautiful, because the angle in which the photographer has shot that pictures are very beautiful. But once you're in the ground, it's exactly like India. You see dirt everywhere. You can smell pee everywhere, garbage everywhere.
Little things like spatial awareness. Parisians don't seem to have any spatial awareness. They just stand in the doorway and check their phones or put their bags on when you're trying to get out. Or they can't walk, don't seem to be able to walk a straight line. You're walking along and all of a sudden they cut in front of you for no reason. Little things like that.
Déjà, les gens, ils sont pas trop courtois. Ils sont pas trop courtois parce que lorsque peut-être tu as besoin de renseignements, ils sont un peu dans leur bulle, comme on dit, ils sont beaucoup rongés en eux, et c'est un peu compliqué de, bon, je généralise pas le cas, mais c'est ce que j'ai vu dès mon début quand je suis arrivé. Lorsque j'ai besoin d'informations, quand je viens vers quelqu'un, je vais demander « Ah, c'est par où je peux passer pour arriver là ?» La personne, directement, il me refoule. Donc, ce côté-là, j'aime pas trop de Paris. Et voilà. Sinon, à part ça, je pense que tout va bien.
I do dislike the weather, to be honest. And it's frustrating because I cannot change it. I do miss having more sun during summer months.
The winters, I do not like the winters. They're long, dark, grey, bleak. But it's little things like the smoking. You know, I'm from Australia where smoking isn't allowed within anywhere near where you eat. And so here you'll go out for a nice drink or dinner or something on a terrace and there's someone next to you puffing away, or whole table puffing away, which takes a bit of getting used to.
The life can be stressful in Paris. The life is really speed. Everybody is really speed, and can be sometimes cold in appearance. Yes, the subway, it's a very difficult point for living in Paris because it's chaotic.
Probably people should speak more English. Being it Paris, being it a global, I would say global capital of fashion, and I being a photographer working here, and then my clients don't speak English, so I have to take a French to English person with me. So I'm taking a live Google translator with me. But I think that's a me problem, that's not a Paris problem.
The rats. I think that sometimes, yeah, I want to lay on the grass, but I can't because I used to see the rats like walking around, so I just like disgusted. But a part of that sometimes is the trash, because sometimes it smells so bad and people don't take care of that.
Okay, Paris is really, really expensive. So first, the housing situation is kind of mad. I live currently in 18 square meters. And I think the biggest apartment I've lived in Paris is 34, which is tiny for example, Frankfurt, or crazy tiny if I compare it to my hometown. But here it's pretty normal, and I know people who live in even smaller places.
The fact that it's so hard to find an accommodation here. I cannot rent an apartment at all. So in order to do it, I just try to make friends and speak with the friends of a friend, and this way be able to, because they have very, very strict rules for this dossier that everyone knows. So yeah, this is tough.
Sometimes I feel unsafe because looks like some homeless people insane, you know, when you're a bit crazy, and sometimes I walk and think better someone do not touch me. So I bought the spray, you know, and I take it with me. I wish the government take care about these people, to give them some conditions to be more okay, you know.
And then there are a lot of beggars, there are a lot of people asking for money, there are a lot of scams. And I guess it's just like in every big town or big city, there are lots of pickpockets, and so you always have to have your bag really close. And yeah, so there are some not so nice people around. That's negative.
Booker thinks that the suburbs are Paris doesn't really care about the suburbs and focus more into the center of Paris,
yeah.
where all the tourists are.
And what does this make with the suburbs? What is the effect on the suburbs?
There is less money invested to be more, how to say that, to be more, so for example, the road, they are in a bad
Condition.
bad state, and you can really see that
Difference.
depending on where you live in Paris, the district, you have more or less advantages.
I wanted to talk about all the animals that you can find. So you can find rats all over Paris, and then mice. I had 2 apartments where I had mice. And then there's cockroaches, and then there was this situation with the bed bugs. So basically, yeah, all these weird, it's not even insects, or it's just animals that are all over Paris and that everybody just has to live with. Because they've been trying to keep it out of the park, but even right now there was a rat running around, and they don't care if they're in the middle of a crowd. So it's something to get used to, and it's something that's maybe not as known. Well, on the other hand, I mean, Paris kind of is known for ratatouille, so for the film.
What do you mean by cold in appearance? You mean the people?
Yes, the people can be quite distant, you know, a little bit difficult to interact with some people, because everybody is in his tunnel and go to work, or yes, sometimes we can have the interaction really weird, or with the commerciant or other people, when yes, he look at you like, you are not Parisian, yes, when you are too smiling or something, people are not really habituated to that, so they are like, strange.
I would say I dislike how dirty it can be. The amount of dog poo I see on the street is just not okay. I'm very surprised by how much of it is everywhere. Where I'm from, people clean up after their dogs. In Paris, apparently that's not a thing. And the thing is, it's not just dog poo, it's also people poo. And you can tell the difference when you're walking. So I find that a little bit gross. It's not that hard to clean up after yourselves. So yeah, the dirtiness can be jarring sometimes. Sometimes I find it to be a little bit too busy and unfriendly, because it does seem like people always have somewhere to go. And I'm from a big city too, I understand that, but there's a certain level of attitude here where people are just very busy doing their own thing, absorbed in their own lives, and they can be quite miserable. So I find that people are just in a bad mood trying to go to work, trying to go anywhere here in Paris. And in my opinion, it doesn't have to be like that. Like, everybody has a place to go, that's fine, but your life isn't so bad all the time, I guess. So yeah, I would say just like the dirtiness, and Parisians seem to just kind of be in a bad mood a lot and complain quite a bit.
Don't get me started. The French are complicated people. I think there's a strong cultural identity. There's a lot of I think I'm getting so much trouble for this, but there's a gap sometimes in terms of the way that people think they are, and what they think they do, and what they are, and what they represent. And this is a very revolutionary people historically in France, and I think that in a capital city like Paris, there's a lot of revolt and a lot of objection at all times. So protests are regular, angry protests more or less these past years, starting with the Gilets jaunes. I'd say that there's, and a certain coldness to others, which has, I think, become woven itself into the city life here. You know, it's a bit of a tension, like a bit of, people are a bit on edge, I think.
Can you give an example of what you mean with what they think they are and what they are different?
Well, when it comes to equality, brotherhood, and all the various things that make up the Fifth Republic in France that are woven into the Constitution, I think that the reality and how it translates to day-to-day life, how you would treat the person, I would say that there's a level of baseline pettiness and just general nastiness that you can find in pretty much, but you know, without focusing on that, you can also find the reverse. You know, just some people are just rays of sunshine alive. So I think that there's definitely just two levels, and sometimes there's no real middle ground. You'll either get the great or you get some but the middle ground is not as easy to find.
One thing is you have to pay for toilets. I think it's prevalent in many cities in Europe, but where I'm from in Canada, it's completely free. But here it's usually €1, even in the malls.
Oh, one more negative thing. How could I forget this? If I want to pee, the restaurants don't allow you in. If you want to pee, buy something. But guys, I have a hack for that. The hack is you get into the restaurant as if you were already there. And you'll be like, oh, where's my coffee? Oh, just a second. And I just go and do my business and I'm out.
One other thing I dislike about Paris is the smoking culture. I'm not a big smoker, nor do I smoke, though everyone here smokes more often than not. And a lot of restaurants build themselves around that culture. So you have brasseries that have the open terraces where you can sit outside. And yes, it's nice until you sit beside someone who smokes and you just showered, and a couple hours later, your whole clothes and your hair are, you know, they reek of cigarettes. So that's one thing I dislike about Paris.
I do miss the, how can I say it? I do miss having like a car, being more autonomous, you know, with moving around. I don't enjoy too much the public transport, but it's fine. It's part of this, so.
I think the biggest part is maybe the time that is consumed to move from point A to point B and the preparation for unexpected. Because public transport may not work, you might end up in huge traffic jam. And also the fact that many people are also in a hurry, that adds a bit of additional stress to you, since you're always you're in the crowd, right? You're with people.
I don't have anything special to complain because I have enough experience to avoid them. So basically noisy place or polluted place or not secure place, I know where they are, so I just avoid them.
Yeah.
So it makes that I have nothing to complain.
And for me, there's one thing I don't like about the transport system in Paris. It's mostly not in the city center or in the city, it's mostly on the outside, in the boroughs. It's that there's some lateness sometimes, which sometimes are very unusual. They don't get communicated enough. And that's one of the main problems for me because I go to school by public transport. So sometimes some lateness, it really gets my mom really annoyed because the lateness in the student reports, it's not a good thing to have.
Oh yes, I say okay. Yeah, so he gave me a good idea. Some simple things that I will fix first. It's bus transportation, having a real-time localization. I got this when I was in Shanghai. I got this when I was in Manchester. So it was very more good incentive to use bus, to use public transportation. Here in France, we don't have. So So when you take a bus, it's always like a gambling. You are 50% chance to be on time, 50% chance to be late. It's a simple things. It's the first thing I would fix.
What do I dislike about living in Paris? Bureaucracies is a big one. Just an incredible amount of hoops that you have to jump through, and that really gets frustrating and demoralizing as an expat, as an immigrant. You have to prove why you're here every year when you first move here, because you have to renew. It's different for the person that you land on at the government agency. You know, you need this paper. One person says you need this paper, another person says that you don't need it, or you weren't told you needed it, and then suddenly now you need to show it. And so, yeah, my experience has been having to renew every year. Whereas for some of my friends, you know, they might get lucky and they only have to renew every 2 years. It's just, yeah, I haven't figured that one out yet.
Thanks a lot for watching until the end of this video. You can also see what people like about living in Paris and other European cities on this channel. And you would help me out a lot by giving me a like or comment, and I hope to see you in the next video.